A radio show host in Seattle called Paul Gallant.
You are definitely living in the hindsight world today, Paul.
Do you feel there's been a consistent theme with the interceptions?
I think every interception really has a different story.
I was just kind of curious what Paul gets to say.
I got f***ing grow, mother. Are you kidding me?
Paul Gallant, what the hell is wrong with you?
Hello and welcome aboard another episode of the Gallant Says podcast, live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Gallant Says, also on YouTube, youtube.com/Paul Gallant. You can also get this wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. If you haven't already, rate, review, subscribe. Every little bit helps on this Tuesday, January 10th of 2023. In case you couldn't guess it, I am Paul Gallant. Yesterday, I went to a press conference, put on my reporter boots, and went down to Kirby Drive to see a press conference that the Houston Texans were having. I was under the impression that Texans owner Cal McNair and general manager Nick Caserio would speak at length to the Houston sports media. But that wasn't the case. And instead, I find myself thinking about an epidemic. Yeah, I'll call it an epidemic because it's not honest, not truthful, kind of bullshit. Something that's been going on across the league over the past couple of weeks. Let's shift over to our video screen here. That's why you watch it. Twitch.tv/Gallant Says, YouTube.com/Paul Gallant, to the beginning of Cal McNair's press conference.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks for coming. As you know, Nick and I spoke with Lovey last night, informed him that we would be moving in a different direction as an organization. These decisions are extremely difficult, and we appreciate everything Lovey has done for us over the last 2 years as a coach and a leader. We just felt this was the best decision for us at this time.
Okay, so Cal sticks to the script, the opening statement. I think that's a perfect way to announce a firing. I know some of you guys out there might think, oh, well, Cal had to read the script there. No, he says, look, thank him, but it didn't work out. We've chosen to go in a different direction. The problem becomes, though, whenever somebody gets canned, they're getting canned for a reason. They're getting canned because they failed at their job, right? I would know. This has happened to me twice in radio. It happened to me at Sports Radio 610, the Houston Texans flagship, back in 2019. It happened to me at 710 ESPN Seattle back in late August of 2021. I was given different reasons as to why I was let go by both parties. Sports Radio 610 told me I'm not a fit, whatever that means. I would have liked more. And I got a similar reasoning for being let go from 710 in Seattle. It happens. But when it happens, you want more. You don't want to be thanked for your services. I think most people want to know what the fuck they did wrong. I mean, you see it on Hard Knocks. A head coach brings a player into his office with his playbook, lets him go, is probably going to say something nice to him. If you're getting canned, wouldn't you want that blunt honesty? And maybe we can't handle it or something like that. But a thank you is almost patronizing. And it wasn't the only thank you that we saw at NRG Stadium on Kirby Drive yesterday. Let's shift to Nick Caserio's opening statement, where he too decided to thank Lovie Smith.
I think it's important for myself, I know Cal has mentioned it, to acknowledge the contributions and leadership that Lovie provided this program over the past 2 seasons in a variety of different roles. So a lot of respect and appreciation, admiration for Lovey as a person, what he did for our team, what he's done for a lot of people in our building. He had a very positive impact on a lot of different people. In the end, after careful, thoughtful research and evaluation of our program, I felt that this was the best decision for our program moving forward.
They basically say the exact same thing here. They're thanking Lovey for his services. They were very valuable over the last 2 years, but not that valuable because they fired him. This version of thank you, Lovey Smith, may take the cake, though. This came from the Houston Texans Twitter account. If you're watching on twitch.tv/Gallant Says or youtube.com/Paul Gallant, you're going to see a tweet. It's a picture of Lovey Smith in a suit, and it says, "Thank you, Lovey," period. You're going to give him a fucking tribute video next? And look, you're trying to be nice. You're trying to do the right thing. It's patronizing, though. Thank you. Thank you for playing us out of the #1 overall draft pick. I know a lot of you fans are thinking that right now. Thank you, Lovey, for helping us have the second best record in the AFC South this past season, which is a fact, 3-2-1. It's funny that this idea of needing to thank someone you fired is becoming mainstream, and you're not just seeing it with the Houston Texans. A couple of comments to address on the Twitch chat. Why is he referring to us as a program? Nick Casario. This isn't TCU, man, writes Waka Flocka Bucks on twitch.tv/Gallant Says. It's semantics. I think if you're getting mad at Nick Casario saying program, you're probably just going to get mad at anything Nick Casario does, which I understand. Clarence Worley on youtube.com/Paul Gallant. Whoever had the idea for Mills to be our starter should have been fired. He's why we stunk. Well, some people online will tell you that Mills was playing great at the end of last season. And they'll fucking say great. Great. I watched some of those same games. I thought there were flashes of potential. I think most quarterbacks in the NFL show from time to time that they have some sort of ability. You're going to throw a pretty pass or two. With nice touch, maybe a laser one in to tight traffic, a guy catches it. But can you do it consistently? And Mills obviously couldn't do it consistently this past season. And that is one of the main reasons that I think we are here, where Lovey Smith is out of a job. And also, Nick Casario is the one that's being lowered into boiling water like a lobster at that press conference yesterday with Cal McNair and Hannah McNair sitting, watching from the second row as he fielded uncomfortable after uncomfortable after uncomfortable question. For whatever reason, the Texans thought that they might be good or at least reasonably competitive this past season. And I'm sorry, Davis Mills checks a lot of boxes as far as what you want size-wise in a quarterback, arm strength-wise in a quarterback, but he's not very mobile. He's incredibly inaccurate towards the sidelines. I am with you, Clarence. I don't know why there was a belief by some, not just in the organization, by some who cover the team, in this guy. I mean, we've been here for what, 20 years since the Texans have been back? How many good quarterbacks have there been? Matt Schaub and Deshaun Watson? Like, that's pretty much it. Anyway, there is an epidemic of thanking fired people across the NFL. Let's go to the Denver Broncos. Owner and CEO Greg Penner, along with general manager George Payton, held a press conference after they announced the firing of Nathaniel Hackett with a couple of weeks to go before the end of the year.
Rob, Kerry, and the ownership group, I want to thank Nathaniel Hackett for his contributions to the Denver Broncos. These decisions are hard. We've all enjoyed the relationship that we've developed with Nathaniel, the time that we've spent together, and getting to know him better as a coach and a person. The competitiveness our team has shown this year, despite the injuries and adversity, is a testament to Nathaniel and his leadership. I believe he will be a successful coach in the future, and we wish him the best.
Okay, pause. I believe he will be a successful coach in the future, and we wish him the best. Why are you fucking saying that? Because now if he actually is good elsewhere, you're going to look like the asshole who fired him because he couldn't get Russell Wilson to not play like shit for the most of this past season. And again, I think a lot of criticism is due Nathaniel Hackett's way. But the thank you after the fact, to me, it's condescending. It's cheap. And I mean, you're patting a guy on the head as if he needs some sort of validation because he is absolutely down in the dumps after getting paid an NFL coaching salary and honestly also being paid for the years to come. They just hired Nathaniel Hackett, much like the Cardinals just gave Cliff Kingsbury an extension. No one feels bad for these guys. They might be nice guys or they might be assholes. Either way, they just got a shit ton of money and will be paid over the next couple of years and can do whatever they want. Why would you even want to stay in coaching? We feel bad for these coaches. You don't need to thank them after firing them. Do you? Would you want to be thanked after being fired? Personally, I wouldn't. Honestly, there's a part of me that wishes instead of hearing that I wasn't a fit, that I had a detailed breakdown of all the things that I did wrong, because I would have taken it to heart and tried to work on those things from both the places I worked at. Maybe there's some sort of legal ramifications, or maybe there's an idea that, hey, like, we're cutting ties. This person can figure shit out on their own. But I'd rather that than being thanked. Anyway, this press conference wasn't done. Here is Broncos general manager George Paton also thanking Nathaniel Hackett.
Nathaniel's a very good football coach, and he's even a better person, and it just didn't work out here, and that's on me. And as I told the players yesterday, I take full responsibility for where we are as a football team.
Not full enough responsibility, though, to fall on the sword and get fired. But I want to thank Nathaniel Hackett for helping out. You also heard it from Russell Wilson, too. Here's Russell Wilson's press conference, I believe a couple of days later, where he also compliments the shit out of Nathaniel Hackett more than he probably ever complimented Pete Carroll during Pete's tenure with Russ in Seattle, that, of course, saw the Seahawks go to 2 Super Bowls, win 1, and have a plus 500 record every single season. Here is Russell Wilson.
Obviously, devastated by Coach Hackett because I think he's an amazing man, amazing teacher, amazing father, just watching him with his kids and what he's been able to do and how he's taught the game for us. This season has been a season that we never thought was going to happen the way it did. He was a guy that spent all his time, all of his effort into us as players, as staff members, everybody, coaches as well. And so I think that he's going to be an amazing coach. He's one of the brighter minds I've been around. And I think also, too, it's been a crazy season, tons of injuries, tons of everything else. But the reality is that, I wish I could have played better for him, too. Wish I could have played at the standard and the level that I've played, I've always played at and know how to play at. So,
all right, let's pause for a second. At the very end of that, I get distracted a little bit by Russell Wilson. I couldn't play at the level I always play at. Yeah, no shit. You're the reason Hackett's out of a job. I do think that he's showing a little bit of remorse here, but it's a bit of a flex. I've always been good. Also, he loved to say the reality. I'm getting PTSD from Russell Wilson press conferences there. Do you want me to go further with more thank yous to guys who had just been let go? We could go to Mike Vrabel after seemingly winning a power struggle with Titans general manager John Robinson a couple of months ago. Here is Vrabel's opening statement after the firing of John Robinson.
I just want to start off by personally thanking John Robinson and his family for their care and effort and support that they've shown the team and our fans for the past 7 years. I want to thank him for giving me the opportunity to lead this football team on the field, to coach it each and every day. And with that, obviously, change is never easy. But we realize that we all have a job to do. That job is evaluated each and every day.
Blah, 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 blah. Look, Vrabel's thanking a guy who actually hired him to be head coach in John Robinson, a guy who he had a prior relationship, because I do believe that Robinson's time in the NFL did start with the New England Patriots. So he's thankful, but at the same time, you can be thankful. Is it overkill when a guy has been fired and you feel the need to thank the person for X, Y, and Z? Should you just move on? Should you not say anything about it? And That's also something I've wondered about in my industry. When someone gets canned or their contract expires in sports radio, the bosses will generally tell you, don't even mention his name, just to move on. I felt fucking awkward stepping in for the late John Clayton when John had his 2-hour show removed in Seattle. It sucked for me. I was just came into this show. I didn't ask for it. And all of a sudden, here I am doing a show, having people shit on me for stealing John Clayton's show. I remember even talking with John. I was like, dude, I didn't want this. And he understood that. But what do you do when that goes down? I wanted to spend the first segment honoring John Clayton. Felt the same way when my co-host Brian got fired and I'm supposed to go on the air and talk about Brian. I felt the same way when my producer Josh got fired and I had to go on the air and just move on. It was very emotional, all of those moments. But when it's coming from ownership or general managers who are trying to save their jobs, or a coach who just seemingly won a power struggle with the general manager, Mike Vrabel was pissed off that the Tennessee Titans traded A.J. Brown during the NFL draft. There's even video evidence of it. And then A.J. Brown with the Eagles destroys the Titans, and Robinson is let go within that week. But thank you. That to me is interesting. You could thank a coworker, you can thank somebody that you've let go, but if you failed that person and still have a job because of it, and then you're thanking them after the fact, I'd be pissed off as the person who was actually fired. I would. I think we all want a little clarity, and if clarity maybe comes behind closed doors for Lovie Smith, Nathaniel Hackett, John Robinson, in all three of those situations. But we've gotten to a point of overkill, I think, when it comes to thanking people that have been canned. May as well give them tribute videos like it's the NBA or something like that. From there, I want to go to some comments that were made on, I believe, the Daily Wire. I don't know much about the Daily Wire. I guess they have a sports department. This guy is named Matt Walsh, and this video clip popped up on my timeline courtesy of Jason Campbell. Let's put this in the full screen. Twitch.tv/Gallant says, youtube.com/Paul Gallant if you want to see it. He does look like a swarthier bearded me with glasses. Here is Matt Walsh.
Let's consider football itself as a sport. Despite any rule changes or updates to the equipment, it is still a fundamentally violent sport. That's true.
That's true.
And that's what it always will be. Is that a bad thing? No, it's not. In fact, it is a good and healthy thing. It is good that football is violent.
Pause for a second. It's in the eye of the beholder, right? It might be good for ratings on television. I'm trying to think of other things that the violence is actually good for. Might help you become a stronger person. You play football long enough and you're constantly throwing bodies around or something like that. I don't know that it's necessarily good that it's violent. It's entertaining. I don't think good and entertaining are necessarily the same thing. Otherwise, how the fuck would Keeping Up with the Kardashians be such a popular show for all these years, and all these shitty reality TV shows be the same thing? Entertaining and good are not the same thing. Let's continue, though, with Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire here.
It should stay violent. It is good to have violent sports. Okay? We should have violent sports. If anything...
I want to know, though, what... Okay, he's going to continue. But we need violent sports. It's good to have violent sports. I guess. I think that we all have an inner desire to watch things that are violent, whether it's an action movie or it's a violent sport. But as Clarence Worley on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Paul Gallant points out, CTE isn't very good. Yeah, that's generally a result of violence. Concussions, broken limbs, the inability to walk at a later age. Again, the idea that football is good, that's not necessarily true. I love football. It's a big part of my life. I'm thankful I played it. I do think that it instilled values in me of toughness, of of never giving up, etc. Blah, 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 blah. Bullshit. American dream, all those things. But I don't know that I can say it's good. Like, I have a tough time remembering things these days. Is that because I have CTE? I don't know. I bang my head a lot because I have like a giant head and I don't have the best motor skills. But I don't know that football's necessarily been good for me, other than it's given me an outlet to talk about. It's not something that doesn't matter. I get paid to talk about something that doesn't matter. Actually, football has been great for me, but I acknowledge that football itself is probably not good. Anyway, Matt Walsh continues.
I think we should have more of them because a violent sport like football is, among other things, a relatively safe, and relatively productive outlet for male energy and aggression.
I love how he says relative. It's relatively good. So we're going from saying violent football good to it's relatively good. And I think he's about to argue that it's a good distraction for men with our big old balls and big old penises. It's a great distraction for us to stop us from fucking everything that moves, grabbing a club and beating a squirrel to death. Like, this is what we need. Football.
Okay, there's a reason why many of the media articles being written and freaking out about football are being written by women. Because football is not, no matter what the NFL is trying to do.
I love that this is the choice coming. I was wondering where he was going, because generally this is very much the, hey, I don't watch football, but since it's become at the center of the culture wars, I'm going to have a take here.
Football is not for women. There might be some women who get into it, but it's not really for women. It's not for you. You don't understand it. You're not meant to understand it. This is actually a man's thing.
I know some women who want to play football. I don't think it would go so well for them if they're going up against guys, but this is actual mansplaining. I'm surprised that this guy had the balls to go off on this tangent. If you're going to say it's not for women and generalize that a lot of the people that are coming out against football are women, you got to have some actual evidence. And while this is a clip that was isolated not by Matt Walsh, I have no desire to watch any further of Matt Walsh. I am very leery of the idea of going out here and just saying, yeah, this isn't for you. You dumb broads. Stay in the kitchen. Football's not for you. Let's wrap up this Matt Walsh clip.
This is why violent games have existed in every society going back to primitive times. They are a means of channeling and harnessing male aggression.
No, it's a violent form of entertainment. That's why people play it and watch it. And I don't understand the woman's side tangent there. Sorry to be all woke and stuff and stand for women and be the ultimate feminist here. But yeah, this guy's talking out of his ass. But anyway, I saw that video and it had me thinking about a person on Twitter who I don't know what to make of. We go back to the firing of Texans head coach Lovie Smith. There's a guy with a blue check mark. You have to be, of course, careful with all blue check marks these days. This blue check mark, though, is for a legacy verified account that may or may not be notable. A guy by the name of Nick Adams. At Nick Adams in USA. His Twitter profile name reads Nick Adams in parentheses alpha male. Nick Adams retweeted a take that he had on the Texans hiring Lovie Smith on February 7th. That tweet was, the Houston Texans hiring Lovie Smith is an insult to the competitive nature of the sport. Being so committed to intentionally losing football games that they would hire a coach as abysmally incompetent as Lovie Smith is a slap in the face to the players, the fans, and the NFL. Okay, well, you talk loud on Twitter, a bunch of people are going to respond to you. Lovie Smith made a Super Bowl with the Chicago Bears. Lovie Smith had a pretty good run in Chicago, all things considered. To say that he's abysmally incompetent is just wrong. Is he somebody that is ideal as a head coach in his mid-60s going forward for a rebuilding team? Probably not. I had questions about the hiring when it happened. It did seem like it was a last-second switch to Lovie Smith. But he's abysmally incompetent. I'm not going that far. That's a reach. If they had hired Hugh Jackson, who is legitimately the worst coach I've ever seen, who also is one of those people who gets high off of his own press clippings, that would be a different story. Anyway, Nick Adams retweeted this post from a year ago saying Nick Adams was right about Lovie Smith because Nick Adams knows ball. So he talks in the third person and he wants people to know he's an alpha male. But it feels like a parody account, doesn't it? And I tweeted that. I can't tell if he's a parody account or not. Feels like a politics genre ripoff of the Twitter goat 3-year Letterman, who is this guy who tweets that he's like a high school football coach. It's a long-running bit where he just responds to popular accounts, says something clearly meant as bait to get the people who believe everything they see on Twitter as real and want to get mad at something that they see on Twitter. It's one of those accounts that's designed to get reactions from people who don't get it. So I assumed that that's what he is. But then I did a little digging. He does have a Wikipedia page. Nick Adams is an Australian-born American conservative political commentator and author. Adams came to public attention on March 3rd, 2017, when Donald Trump made favorable comments and tweets about his work, notably a tweet promoting Adams' book, Green Card Warrior, and a second tweet on August 25th promoting his book, Retaking America. So I guess that this is a guy that has been a part of Australian politics. He was in politics back in 2004. He's only 37 years old, so all right. He got in very young, but he was formally condemned after racking up thousands of dollars worth of phone calls and cab charges for personal benefit. He visited the United States in 2009 as part of a speaking tour. He immigrated to the United States in 2012, saying he did because I love guns, hot dogs, chicken fried steak. Chicken fried steak's overrated. It kills the steak. Barbecue, cheerleaders, American football, small town parades, beauty pageants, pickup trucks, muscle cars, and 16-lane freeways lined with supersized American flags. He said that since he held conservative views, that he had to wait nearly 5 years to acquire citizenship because of discrimination by the Obama administration. He's a motivational speaker and conservative activist, and he said that the fascination of the American political system led to him promoting American ideals. Rick Perry, then the governor of Texas, crowned him an honorary Texan prior to a speech in 2013. He's been appointed by Donald Trump on the board of the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars. He's been on Fox News and other conservative media outlets. He's been a columnist for Town Hall. But he's a bit, and some have described him on Wiki as a Twitter troll. And that's where you go to his actual profile. Nick Adams, alpha male, billing himself as President Trump's favorite author. So really pandering to a very specific base. Best-selling author endorsed by President Trump, president of some bullshit thing committee, Australian by birth, American by choice. Oh, fuck. Do I got to change my Twitter? Do I have to change my Twitter now? I mean, if this is what Nick Adams' mind says, Massachusetts by birth, Texan by choice, am I that asshole? Am I as much of a jabroni as Nick Adams? Who, no offense to Nick, you come across as a massive asshole. You could be an alpha male, but you're also a massive asshole. Like that's what I see when I look you up. Anyone who in parentheses says alpha male, feel like you shouldn't need to tell anybody you're an alpha male. Everyone just knows. But in parentheses it says alpha male. I don't know. It's akin to a supersized pickup truck. It is akin to, compensating for perhaps the absence of something else. And I'm sure that if Nick Adams saw this, he would say, I have a massive penis. It's the best penis of all time. And maybe that's why he and Donald Trump see eye to eye on a lot of different things, just putting out bold statements out there. But I don't know. An alpha male, dominant male animal in a particular group, generally doesn't need to tell people he's the alpha male, much like a king doesn't need to tell people he's the fucking king. Remember that if you watch Game of Thrones? There was a moment where Tywin Lannister and Joffrey are getting into a back and forth. And at one point, Tywin tells Joffrey, a king does not need to emphasize that he is the king, if he's actually the king, if he actually has the power, and then he sends Joffrey to bed, essentially without supper. You shouldn't need to tell people that you're an alpha male. You shouldn't need to tell people that you're the king. And this guy's got to be a bit. I mean, look at this tweet. You may not like it, but I sit with my legs spread wide open. Deal with it. Accept it. Move on. Alpha male. Out. And I'll be honest, I mean, as someone who's got larger clackers, I think, than the average person, here I am, being an alpha male myself. Sometimes it sucks to be sitting in a spot where you can't spread your legs out, to be in the middle seat on a plane, to be in the middle seat anywhere. I used to get my mom and my sister annoyed because I would spread the legs. Spreading the legs shouldn't be as shamed as it actually is. Some of us are dealing with a lot down there, okay? Clackers, dongs, whatever, I don't care. All I'm saying is, okay, this is actually something where Nick Adams maybe has a case. But Nick made real headlines over the weekend for a back and forth that he had with Paige Spiranak. You might recognize Paige Spiranak as one of those Instagram golfers who was very, very comfortable showing a little skin because she's beautiful. Anyway, Nick Adams tweeted this, and he's a troll. He's an alpha male in parentheses that is, I think, a parody account too. Can't there be a par 3 course set aside for the slow female golfers so they don't clog up the championship courses on the weekends, he wrote. There's no reason women should be allowed to slow down the pace of play on a beautiful Saturday like today. Paige Spiranak says, it would be so satisfying out driving you all day long. Adam says, listen, Paige, you're not famous because of your golf swing or how far you can drive the ball. Paige responds, listen, Nick, we all know I have fantastic milkers. I shall now change my name to Paige Spiranak Alpha Jugs. Fantastic response. Is this what I should be doing online? Is being a troll what people want? Is just throwing shit out there like this and then walking away and letting the world burn in the comments and getting engagements? Is that the way? Because, look, I'm 33. I'm somewhat frustrated with where my career is. I'm very happy to have a job at ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. I want to stay here for a long time. I want to stay in Houston too. But, I do want to be famous. Who doesn't? Who gets into this industry? Is this what I need to start doing? Do I need to start trolling? Because I'd like to have a healthy balance of things that I say that are true from the heart. And every now and then I fuck around, but you should be able to tell when I'm fucking around. Should I troll more? Should I troll less? I honestly don't even fucking know. But with the success that someone like Nick Adams, alpha male, has had, maybe I should just throw grand statements out there and leave. It works for some people on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I don't know. Maybe that's the route I got to take. Maybe I got to have him on as a guest too. I'm sure he's a normal person. I'm sure if I were to have a conversation with him, that he wouldn't be speaking in grand platitudes the way that he does on Twitter. 400,000 followers or so on Twitter, whatever it is. Like, he's got to be more than just an online troll that successfully riles people up. And honestly, the alpha male in parentheses, I'm sure, is an easy way to get engagement. Maybe I need to do it. Should that be a project of mine over the next week or something like that? Should I just put in parentheses alpha male? Should I put in parentheses beta male? It does seem like the alpha male market is cornered. Something we'll have to think about. But anyway, I appreciate you tuning into this edition of the Gallant Says podcast, live on twitch.tv/Gallant Says or youtube.com/Paul Gallant. You want to join in the comments section, chat with the show as it goes on. That's how you do it. But you can also listen to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. If you haven't subscribed to all of the above already, please do so I can feed my cat. Or just do it if you like it. So long, farewell. Have yourselves a wonderful Tuesday, and I'll be back at it tomorrow, 1 o'clock Central Time.